Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live Sneakerhead call-in show that we do every Thursday, where members of the channel call in. We get their takes on the 49ers. Today, maybe a little focused on Deebo Samuel, but we still have our eyes towards the draft. We can't get distracted. We can't take our eyes off of the prize here. We're definitely going to be breaking down the 49ers moves. They have signed someone today. We will be talking about that, I'm sure. But whatever is on your mind is what's going to be talked about today. I did want to take a moment just to say a couple of words before I got started. By the way, housekeeping item, if you want to call in, it's a Sneakerhead call-in show. So if you're a member of the channel, you can call in. The link to take you to the link is over in the chat. So over here in the chat, there's a link that takes you to my YouTube page. On that community tab of my YouTube page, there's a link that you call in to StreamYard, and then you can get your camera going. You don't have to get your camera going, though. If you want to just do audio only, that's totally fine. If you are only comfortable with having your voice on the air, totally fine. So go over there to the YouTube page. As long as you are a Sneakerhead member of the channel, you can access that and call in. I'll try to keep the calls flowing when there are people waiting in the waiting room so that you don't have to stick around for too long unless there's just a long line of people waiting to get in. But as I said, I wanted to take a moment. I just wanted to take a moment for a little bit of gratitude. I wanted to kick out a little bit of gratitude to everyone that supports this channel, to everyone that has ever liked a video, subscribed a video, subscribed to the channel, anyone that has ever become a sneakerhead. Certainly to the Sneakerhead crew, I want to say thank you, but also to the people that I've collaborated with, to the people that have reached out to me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Those relationships, those connections that I've made, I am very appreciative of that. And it dawned on me that it was worth taking a moment to stop and say thank you. Thank you to anyone watching. Thank you to anyone listening, anyone who has interacted with me. You know who you are. This is me, absolutely, from the bottom of my heart saying thank you, because it means a great deal to me. And it just felt like that needed to be said. I appreciate those that are here in the chat as well. People coming in. April Williams. I like this one. Deebo isn't going anywhere. April, I hope you are 1,000% correct. And I think you are. I don't think that he is going anywhere. Jared coming in. Not so sure. Jared says Deebo's going to Miami with Jimmy. I don't know that I buy it, but hey, could happen. Stranger things have happened, that's for sure. Charles Thurman coming in. Hello, Rob. You're the man. Charles, thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Javon saying what many 49er faithful are thinking, which is, if we trade Deebo, I'll lose it. I think a lot of people will lose it at that point. BK from the Bay in here. What up, Rob? What up, BK? David Williams coming in. Hello, Rob and the faithful. Raphael 5629ers, a sneakerhead here on the channel. What's up, Rob and everyone? Crazy Juice Box 15. Hey, and we are current. Let's get into our first caller. We've got Chris Royal coming in. Chris, welcome to the show. Chris, how you doing this fine Thursday afternoon? You're in Oregon as well, so I'm guessing, even though you're a little removed from Portland, you're enjoying some beautiful springtime weather today.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty nice out. I actually came home from work and the house was a little hot, so I had to turn on the AC. So
it's like it's a standout day. Like you look at the weather app and it's like today, nice, bright, sunny, 75, and then tomorrow back to rain for like 5 more days. Yeah, so it's the one standout day. But I too am going to need to kick on the AC to cool down the house tonight.
Absolutely, yeah. It was. It turned out to be a really nice day.
Yes, it did. All right, so I want to pick your brain on this one. I have to get your reaction around Deebo Samuel. Are you buying into the Deebo-drama, as I am officially labeling what's going on today?
I am not buying into it. I think he's just kind of flexing his muscles, doing what he can to make the top brass, nervous.
Right, because it does apply some pressure to them, right? I mean, The fan base is whipped into a frenzy, at least at a minimum on Twitter. But I think most of the fan base, right? I get the logical side of 49er fans. I hear represented through my dad and my brother. They don't hear what's going on Twitter, right? They're not in the Twitter space. And I think that's probably at least half of the faithful are just not on Twitter. It's just too weird of an app for some people. But it tends to be sort of negative. When that take reaches my dad or my brother, then I know it's got wheels, right? Because if it's reached the traditional media route to get to them, then it has wheels. I think this Deebo news has reached everybody.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely out there. But like I said, I think it's just a little bit of smoke. He's trying to do what he can to, give himself as much leverage as possible to get that money. And like I told you backstage, I think if they don't, I definitely think they'll get this done. If they don't, it's unexcusable. 100%.
It would be to me as well. I think that the 49ers have rightfully so been a little caught off guard by the way in which receiver contracts have been doled out this offseason. They probably had a very specific number in mind for Deebo Samuel, and had they worked expeditiously to get that contract signed right away, which probably wasn't their priority. Niners tend to get those contracts done in camp towards July. But had they started the negotiation in good faith, press that number, maybe they get the deal done. But now these dominoes start to fall of bigger and bigger and more robust, more guarantees for all these other receivers. And of course, Deebo Samuel, coming off of the season he just had, is now going to want to up that figure. And perhaps the 49ers have been a little slow to respond. Hence Deebo's frustration, where he feels he needs to apply their feet to the fire a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I don't know who's running this ship right now as far as, getting the contract together. I think Parag needs to step back and just give this dude whatever he wants. I mean, just, like we were talking about earlier, I think if you gave me Deebo or Bosa, I would probably pick Deebo 10 out of 10 times. The sheer heart and willpower that he has to change the game, I think is something that you just don't want to let go.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me, but I think I would side with you. I would have to mull that over for quite some time. Those are two players that, to me, you lock them both down. But if you're forcing me to pick one or the other, I think I agree with you. I think I would probably keep Deebo in that scenario because of the fact that he is so much the heart and soul of the team, what he brings to the table. It would be a tough decision. I would rather that they do lock them both down, but you have some opposing views here, right? Alan coming in saying, at Rob Schuh, let's find a way to keep Deebo. That's sort of the, hey, let's do whatever it takes to get it done. But then I like Melvin's posed question here, and it's one that I want to pose to you, Chris, and get your take on it. Would you consider a trade for Deebo if he said he wouldn't sign for less than $27 million per season? So if his asking price were sort of astronomical in that respect, I mean, we've heard numbers floated around at 21, 22 million a year. Obviously, the terms of the deal would matter. What's the guaranteed money? All of that. But let's just go with Melvin's hypothetical here. Are you entertaining trade offers at that point? Or are you saying, I'm doing what it takes to get this deal done?
Yeah, if it's me, I'm doing whatever it takes to get it done. I think, with the way the cap works and the way they can structure contracts and stuff, that, $27 million a year, it could be spread out various different ways. So I think they could get creative with it. But me personally, not being the person paying the bills, I would definitely fork out the money if that's what it took.
Right. Well, I like Jose's suggestion here that as a faithful, we can play a role. Jose says, start a GoFundMe account. We can make that money for Deebo. LOL. Yeah. And then people rightfully pointing out, and I think this is fair, in that decision between if you were forced, feet to the fire, Deebo or Nick Bosa, you had to let one go. Joey Nichols coming in to point out an elite edge rusher is harder to find than a wide receiver. I tend to agree. But Deebo is more than a wide receiver. You do have to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that a wide back is harder to find than a wide receiver. A physical wide receiver that's capable of doing what Deebo did last season is a rare breed. And, you know, you could critique either player for having a rather robust injury history. So that feels like a wash to me. But in general, I agree. An edge rusher is harder to find than a wide receiver. I just am not comfortable merely calling Deebo a wide receiver. I don't think that acknowledges what he brings to the table.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would also say that you know, it is harder to find the edge rushers, and I agree with that. But you know, we went through a year without Nick Bosa, and we did relatively well getting pressure. You know, it was we lost a lot of production from him, but you know, I think we have a solid defense to where if we had to move on from him, I think we'd be just fine.
This is an interesting one. Again, people exploring all of the angles. And I like that because from an intellectual standpoint, that's what we can do right now. We can play that logical game of if this, then that, right? So here we go, bringing in Volley here at Rob. If we can get 2 firsts for Deebo and can draft that kid that Trey played with in college, I think I'd be happy with that. That would be Christian Watson that Volley is referring to. So that's another hypothetical that we throw out there. If you could get Christian Watson and another first-round draft pick, is that enough to begin to change your mind about letting Deebo go?
Man, I'm still in the camp where I just don't know if I'd want to let him go.
Me too, because Christian Watson looks like the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. Christian Watson seems to check all the boxes. He looks the part, he speaks the part, and he acts the part out on the field. And that was the vibe I got from him at the combine. And yet, he has not made the jump to the NFL yet. He may or may not be as good as we all hope he's going to be at the next level. Deebo is that good. Deebo should have gotten votes for the MVP of the MFing league last 100%. Year. So we know what Deebo is capable of, but I get it. You know, you're talking about potentially 2 first-round picks and paying both of those people significantly less than you're paying Deebo at whatever you're landing him at, 25, 26 million a year.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think for the 49ers to even consider trading Deebo, they would want, you know, the compensation this year for this year's draft. I don't think 2 firsts next year is going to do it or anything like that. They're going to want something this year. And I think Watson, if he came to our team, he'd fit in really well. You know, Shanahan would use him perfectly. He's already played with Lance, so he knows exactly what his tendencies are, where to hit the open holes in the zones. He'd fit really well. But I don't know. Like you said, I think Deebo is already established, and we just don't know what anybody else in the draft, regardless of how good they are in college, is going to actually turn out to be.
I tend to agree, and I still am like you, stubbornly keeping Deebo in that scenario. Yeah. I'm just at this point, I do have to admit that I am emotionally attached to the player. As a fan, I'm emotionally attached. But even when I attempt to remove that emotion and look at it from a logical perspective, I still am of the mindset that I would rather have Deebo Samuel, and the team dynamic that creates in taking care of one of your own, guy you drafted, guy who came up, fought through injury to have an elite season for your team, leading you to the NFC Championship game. If you now set the precedent again of, hey, this was the leader of the entire team, definitely the leader of the offense, much like DeForest Buckner was the leader of the defense. If you now take another homegrown talent and ship him out, I just think you're playing with fire at some point, right? You're sending the wrong message. Yeah. I get this is a business. Everybody's got a business mindset, but to me, you got to reward guys. And this is a prime example of it. I want to bring this one in because I think a lot of people have this idea, and I think that it's a bit a bit different. The reality is a bit different than it may seem. So JG1 comes in. They have to trade or release Jimmy Garoppolo to reallocate his $26 million to pay Deebo and Bosa. Fire sale for Jimmy Garoppolo. I agree with the last sentence. I think it is a fire sale for Jimmy Garoppolo, but it is not to clear up cap space for the Deebo and Bosa deals. The reality of those two deals, from historical evidence of how the 49ers have done these big contracts in backloading them, most likely they would continue to follow that formula where this year's salary wouldn't change much for Nick Bosa or for Deebo. They would get a big lump sum payment, the bonus that they would get, that initial signing bonus, but that would be prorated over the life of the deal. And we're talking about, 5-year deals, maybe with a voidable year at the end, just to kick that can down the road further. So their cap hit this year, even with these mega contracts they're about to get, probably won't change much. So getting Garoppolo off of the books is purely to use that money elsewhere, but not for these two extensions.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Nice. All right. So we hit the Deebo thing, but do you have anything else on your mind? What do you think of the little speedster wide receiver that the 49ers just brought into the building today? I believe, is it Marcus Johnson, his name?
Yeah, I didn't even actually see that. So I have no idea. I don't know anything about the guy.
Yeah, he is a fast receiver, but he was an undrafted free agent before his rookie contract and then bounced around the league. So he's played for 4 or 5 different teams. It doesn't, to me, there's no correlation between that move and everything else that's going on with Deebo. This is just the Niners having to have 6 viable wide receivers to put on that 53-man roster. So this to me is a depth move and not something that is a big deal in relation to what's going on with Deebo.
Yeah, and I would say that probably in Kyle Shanahan's office, he'll have moderately more success than maybe the other places that he jumped around. I mean, you look at Raheem Mostert, who jumped around for several different teams until he settled in with Kyle Shanahan. So I think Kyle Shanahan will probably get the most out of his talent.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Kyle does a good job of putting players in the best position to succeed. And so, yeah. I mean, I definitely, for those people that say, hey, Deebo is who he is because he's within Kyle Shanahan's system, I say to that, yeah, kind of. I do think that players need to be put in the best position to be successful. And I would say it's clearly evident to me what Deebo brings to the table. There are plays that have nothing to do with how they were schemed up and everything to do with Deebo's heart, his physicality, his vision, and the way in which he executes. And that led to a phenomenal play on the field. And I felt like that was a pretty regular occurrence there.
Yeah, I would definitely say that you could put Deebo on in any of the 32 teams and he would be extremely good wide receiver. I think just the way that Kyle Shanahan uses him as more of like the offensive weapon,
right?
That's where he's going to get his paycheck from.
Totally agree. Charles Thurman, I like this one. Oh, hit the wrong one. Every time I go for one and it moves up, then I click the wrong comment. Charles coming in. Deebo could probably play edge, right? So yeah, he goes both ways, offense, defense. He can play both ways. So we'll just have him play wide receiver and edge if we had to trade one or the other. All right. Somebody asked about the wide receiver. I just got to make sure. I tried to look at my notes, but I may not have written it down. So I am going to Google that real quick just to make sure. Yes, Marcus Johnson is the new wide receiver that the 49ers brought in. You can go back and see some highlights of him with his various teams. He has played for the Eagles, the Colts, the Titans. His career numbers are 51 career receptions for 839 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's got good size. I recall that. I think he's 6'1", 6 or 6'1", and just over 200 pounds. So he's got the requisite size to be a 49ers wide receiver and handle those blocking assignments. So I think it's a good addition, but I just see it as a depth addition for the 49ers.
Yeah, I would, judging by what you're saying, I would probably agree with that. It's more of a depth thing.
Yes. All right. Well, any other thoughts about what is happening with the Niners today, Chris?
No, not really. Man, I'm looking forward to going to the draft here in a couple weeks, and
Me too. Hey, we got to pick
really
a
excited.
spot to grab lunch, man. You're going to be in Vegas. I'm going to be in Vegas. We got to make that happen.
Yeah, I looked at that burger bar that you were saying, and those burgers look pretty darn legit.
I'm
So,
telling you, they are. And their shakes are legit as well. That Oreo shake, many a late night when I was in Vegas working, I would get myself one of those Oreo shakes. I have heard that restaurant has changed hands, but still got to go back and give it a day in court, you know?
yeah, for sure. I'm a little bit boring, so I usually go like chocolate or strawberry shakes.
There
But
you
I
go.
mean, I love an Oreo anything. So
Nothing wrong with the classics, though,
no,
Chris. Nothing wrong with the classics.
I agree.
Nice. Well, hey, we may have an opportunity for a roundtable at the end of this one. So I don't know your schedule, but I'm going to throw that out there. If you want to stick
Sure.
around for it, we might be able to make that happen. I am going to transition now to bring in that Niner guy, Chris. Thank you so much for that call.
Thank you.
Oh, it just cut off Chris as he was saying thank you. My apologies, good sir. Get a little quick with that trigger finger. As you know, we are bringing in that Niner guy. That Niner guy, welcome to the stream. How you doing?
What's up, man? I was watching golf all day. What happened with Deebo?
What happened with Deebo is apparently Deebo scrubbed the 49ers from his Instagram account. It was pretty funny the way in which it played out, right? It happened last night that someone said, oh, he's no longer following the 49ers. And then there was some bickering as to whether he ever actually followed the 49ers on Instagram. Some names were thrown back and forth. I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing. I don't involve myself in those Twitter spats. They get weird and ugly real quick. We seem to just be like, I'm on this team, you're on this team. Let's just yell at each other for a while. So I stay away from that. But then apparently, Pat McAfee talks about that fact on his show today, but then says, oh, but Deebo's profile picture still has him in his Niners uniform. He's still got Niners photos on. Well, like 10 minutes later, Deebo goes back through and changes his profile pic to just a black circle and takes off most of those freaking pictures. So it's almost as if to say, like, hey, no, this is real. I mean, interpret it as you will, but I definitely am doing this purposefully. And it is, in response to it becoming a bigger deal. So how do you see this? Do you see this as something that 49er faithful should really be getting themselves worked up about? Or is this a bunch of smoke with no fire?
It's nothing because you don't have to trade him yet.
Right.
That's the thing. It's like there's no decision that has to be made this season.
No.
Because he's under contract and you have the franchise tag.
Right. And they can use that a couple of times, right? I mean, it gets astronomical real quick, but they have that option.
Yeah. And listen, if you're someone who's saying pay Deebo whatever he wants, hold on a minute. This is the same thing for Nick Bosa. Let's not forget Deebo's really been elite for one season. First year in the league, really good player. Like, no question about it. I don't think he gets the ball enough as a rookie, but he was a good player. Second year in the league, he played 3 games.
Yeah.
And the team was a disaster of a season in general, right? 2020. But last season, obviously, Deebo showed, he's the guy. He's by far their most talented weapon on offense. The contract is going to get done. But
I believe so.
But I think when it comes to Bosa and Deebo's contract, there's a lot of things to consider, like why I think Bosa's will be easier than Deebo's. Bosa's going to be easier because, one, you can't replace edge guys like Nick Bosa. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
The Patriots traded Chandler Jones. They haven't had anyone like him in the building ever since then. The Raiders tried to get Khalil Mack, and they got lucky. They got Max Crosby. But again, that was a 4th-round pick, a little bit more on the fluky side than it was, okay, we had this master plan. We should have bring in Max Crosby. Don't forget, they drafted Cleveland Farrell first.
Right.
So
that didn't work out so well.
Exactly. So there's a lot to do there. And then with Deebo, if you everyone just go back and look at the last 3 drafts, last 3 or 4 drafts, and the number of wide receivers who are elite players getting picked in the back end of the first round and later. I mean, the Deebo's draft alone, like, I know that I believe the first 2 receivers were in Kill Harry and and Marquise Brown. But following that was Deebo, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, Unfortunately, Jalen Hurts. But
Right.
but no. That's the thing. In the last few years, you've been seeing a lot of teams emphasize wide receivers. There's going to be a bunch of them that come up in this next crop in the draft. So for the Niners, they can play a little hardball. Now, the question is, how hardball does it get? I think Debo's
Yes.
going to get paid. Because the other thing, too, is that when you look at all the other contracts, Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, it's a lot of fake money there. Like
a lot, right?
Yeah.
When you got to follow the guaranteed money, the likely to be earned incentives, not the big number, right? The big number is only if you hit every single incentive in the contract.
Yeah, and I think the bigger thing too is that Devontae Adams' deal is really a 2-year deal at $28 million.
Right.
And then there's a hard void where the Raiders can basically get out of it if it becomes a proverbial S show.
Right. They can pull the parachute at that point.
Exactly. Tyreek Hill is basically 3 years, almost $30 million, but they can do the same thing in Miami. They can get out of it pretty quick. So I think players obviously want that upfront guaranteed money because money makes money, right?
Yes.
That's basic finance, what any financial manager would tell them.
Absolutely. Get that money up front so you can invest it.
Exactly. So, I mean, everyone just calm down. There's nothing else to talk about. So that's part of the problem.
That is very much the problem right now. There is very little else going on except for the Jimmy Garoppolo thing. And we are all very tired of playing that one out. So let's focus on Debo for a little bit, right? That is basically what Niner faithful are saying today.
Yeah. I mean,
let me pose this to you, because I agree with you that most of that in the contracts of the other players that have gotten paid is funny money. When you look at the big numbers, you have to really dig into it to understand the contracts. But I thought Swansong offered an interesting take on it here. Love Debo, but he's whack if he thinks he deserves Cheetah or Adams money. So that's the question I wanted to ask you. Regardless of what percentage of those contracts is made up of non-likely to be earned money, do you believe that Debo should be rewarded with a contract similar to players of the talent level and consistency of Cheetah and Devontae Adams?
No. And that's just the truth. It's no. Devontae Adams has been the best receiver in the league for almost 7 years.
Right.
And I understand Aaron Rodgers was the guy throwing him the ball. And I know his first year in the league, first couple of year and a half was kind of rocky. But ever since he became the guy in Green Bay, he's been one of the best players in the league. No question about it. He's been top of his position. Tyreek Hill, even with Alex Smith, and you can go back and look at his numbers, they're still really good numbers. But then obviously with Mahomes, it's the perfect match of speed and a cannon for a deep ball accuracy with just an incredible touch that we've seen in the league for a really long time. But Tyreek Hill's numbers were at least top 10 every single year. And he didn't get he got a good contract, but he didn't get a massive, top 5 wide receiver money. And he's earned that money. And both those guys have really earned it. Debo's been elite 1 year. And that's just the truth.
You're not alone in that one. 49er Gang 916 coming in. If he had 2 years of production in a row, I understand him being disgruntled. But come on, he only has one great year and wants to be paid like Adams, Hill, and Diggs, who have proven resumes. I do think there's a fair percentage of fans that feel that way. And I do think that has to be taken into account when factoring in what type of a deal you're putting forward for Deebo Samuel, as does just how special that 1 year was. I think both have to be weighed when you're coming in. I do believe the Niners probably came in with a figure that was more realistic before these dominoes started to fall. Once Debo started to see these other players getting large dollar amounts, I do think it's fair that his expectations began to rise. Here's a hypothetical. Got to bring it in because it's that super chat. Big time Willie coming in to say, I'll give you Waller and next year's first for Debo. I mean, the Raiders are in the AFC West, and so it's hard to imagine them really climbing to the top of the league. So you figure that pick next year with Devontae Adams, add Debo to the mix. It's in the late 20s somewhere, right? It's in the 20s. So it's not a super exciting first, but you get Darren Waller to pair next to George Kittle. Would you consider that? Or would you want a boatload of picks if you were going to move Deebo Samuel in this hypothetical?
No, because Waller doesn't fit this offense.
Yeah.
He's more of a, if he played in this offense, he would basically be a giant slot receiver. And he's not the best inline blocker. If you watch some of the Raider games, they do take Waller out a lot on first down, not on play action, just to kind of also to give him a little bit of a breather. The Niners do it a little bit with Kittle, but they do like to keep him in there because of his blocking ability, right? But overall, like, no, it's not a good deal. I mean, Waller is also a lot older than Deebo. I mean, people forget how old Waller is because he had an unfortunately checkered past. Glad he's gotten past it, but it took him some time to become a player in the league and be established. So, and he was a wide receiver too at the beginning of his career.
That is an astute observation on the playing style of Waller, the fit within the offense, and the idea that he is a little bit older as he dealt with those sobriety and addiction issues, which honestly, hats off to him in dealing with that. To me, I have the utmost respect for people that take on those types of issues in life, because I think the vast majority, especially those who are successful in other areas, just tend to overlook those character flaws that may exist within many. I'm sure it's a prevalent issue throughout the league. So kudos to him for working on that. All right, so you're not buying into the Deebo hubbub. What do you think of the acquisition today? The Niners signing, you could argue a depth signing, a camp body. You could label it any way you want. Where do you see the value in signing Marcus Johnson, the journeyman wide receiver that we picked up today?
Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk are going to run less routes during training camp. That's kind of where I'm at. I mean, the Niners tend to bring like 10 to 12 receivers to camp because I think Kyle Shanahan, being a wide receiver, he understands how taxing it is. Yeah. Because you're doing a lot of just deep ball runs. You're working on timing with the receivers. And it's a really good idea to have a ton of bodies at wide receiver. It's like back in the 90s and the early 2000s, they had that fourth quarterback who was just a guy throwing the ball to wide receiver, the camp arm.
Just a camp arm.
Like Kurt Warner actually was a camp arm. Right. Yeah. And that's sort of what that is. He played special teams. So, I mean, he's a possible guy who's maybe on the 53 as a gunner because we did lose Trent Sherfield. And I think the Niners would like to keep that spot. But, I mean, if everyone's favorite player, Christian Watkins, is coming to the Niners, how can he make the team? They already have 4 wide receivers. How are they going to keep 6?
Yeah. I mean, I see it similarly that he is right now the, 4th wide receiver or 5th wide receiver on the team. And I would think that they probably grab somebody in the draft as well. I did find it interesting that he is a 4-3 guy. It didn't strike me initially as a speedy wide receiver, but coming out of college, he was and still shows some of those burners. And it makes me wonder if maybe that at least halfway checks the box for a speedy wide receiver. Because I thought for sure the 49ers at some point with this plethora of fast wide receivers in this year's draft, that's a sketchy use of the word plethora. Like it kind of fits, but it kind of doesn't. I just had to call myself out on that. Every now and then I'll try to throw in some impressive vocabulary. That one didn't quite land. So I just got to acknowledge that. It's
all right. You at least you do the Michael Scott where you just roll with the word you almost got correctly. Just miss the very end of it.
Right. Yeah. So yes, I would say that I still think the Niners might take a wide receiver, but I thought it was almost a certainty, and I'm just not so sure anymore. I think they have checked that box, much like if they signed that edge who came in from Indianapolis, they could check the edge rusher box. I think they are trying to insulate themselves so they can get back to a bit more of best player available and not so much dependent on filling some holes in the roster at various spots in the draft. We got a couple of super chats to bring in. Chris Royal coming in with the super chat. Adams is great to elite wide receiver every year, but Deebo is dynamic in almost every aspect. Adams isn't quite that. That's why I pay him, in my honest opinion. I tend to agree with paying him. It's tough for me in comparisons between Davante Adams and Deebo Samuel because I feel like you're taking something away from either player in comparing them. I do see an immense amount of heart and physicality in Deebo that I would say exceeds what I have seen in Davante. If I were looking at a route runner, the ability to create separation, I would give that edge to Davante, but I would have to go skill set by skill set and sort of give the nod one way or the other.
Okay, so this is actually an interesting point. and it's a good point. When people talk about Deebo, it's mainly his running ability, right?
Right.
Well, if that's the case, what do you pay running backs in the NFL?
Not much.
You don't pay them a whole hell of a lot. And the Devontae Adams skill set, maybe not as physically impressive. Sure, I'll grant that. I mean, he's much skinnier of a player, but his ability to get open, he has way better hands than Deebo. That's not even debatable.
No.
He's been, I mean, his ability to just always be open, his ability to, even when the ball's kind of thrown behind him, go back and get the ball at the catch point. He's also an insanely underrated vertical leaper. Like Devontae Adams has got hops.
He does.
Because he's not that tall. And you see him with a couple big moss catches every year. So it's not a one-to-one comparison, but part of the reason why I think there's stickiness in the Deebo conversation is just because the way he plays. And I think the 49ers, and I think part of it too is that Deebo's camp will want the injury guarantee the 49ers have been giving out.
Yes.
And I don't think the Niners are after D Ford and even a little bit after Kittle possibly getting stuck with his contract. Now, granted, I don't think they're trying to get rid of Kittle anytime soon.
Right.
But I really feel like they might not want to grant that to Deebo. And I think that could be a really big sticking point.
And not to mention the Jimmy Garoppolo contract. That was their first lesson in these big ones. That leads right into official BNA Music 88's comment here. The 49ers paid Jimmy big money with minimum sample size, and he dealt with his injuries. So Deebo might just want folks to keep that same energy. I mean, I don't fault Deebo for wanting the bag. I do not. Let me be clear about that. I think Deebo should do what Deebo needs to do in order to get Deebo paid. That's the bottom line. He deserves the money. He earned the money. Give the man his money. But I also have to look at it from a business perspective as to what the 49ers are likely to do in sussing out what this is going to play out as eventually.
Yeah, I don't think Deebo Samuel wants to remind anyone of the 49ers' original sin of their very first end of their season by paying Jimmy Garoppolo and not franchise tagging him. Right. I don't think anybody wants to remind the 49ers of that.
I don't think he wants that franchise at all. All.
And I, in general, I think the Niners, I think they've learned their lesson on paying guys with a smaller sample size.
Yeah.
In particular with the Jimmy situation, because obviously Jimmy missed basically 2 seasons because he can't stay healthy. And I'm not going to talk about Jimmy anymore because it's going to make me more angry. So,
all right. What else you got on your mind? Because I got to get down to William Bennett for a second, unless you want to just come back to the roundtable in a moment.
He'll run it back.
Let's run it back. All right. That Niner guy, we will see you momentarily.
Good, sir.
All right. Bringing into the stream, William Bennett, hailing out of Washington, D.C., one of the fan favorites here on the channel. William, welcome in, brother. Cheers. How you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're sounding good today, my friend.
You know, I always got to do a sound check.
Hey, a little sound check. Got to make sure that it's good. I like it.
Hey, how's everybody doing on this? I don't know how your time zone roll, but on this Friday Eve, I don't even call it Thursday no more. I call it Friday Eve.
Just getting ready for that weekend, huh, man? I like it.
My birthday Saturday, so
hey, happy early birthday to you, William. That's
fantastic. People, I was at a Washington game some years back, and I had on a TO jersey. It was when I think it was RG3's first year as the and they played in FedEx against the Niners, and this woman who was behind me going in, she was like, "You live here. Why are you wearing that jersey?" I said, well, I'm originally from South Carolina, but I was born to be a Niner. And she said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "My birthday is April 9th. She was like, she just looked at clueless. I said 4-9,
That's
4th month, 9th day. And then she thought about it. She said, "Oh," I said 49ers.
Right?
So,
4'9", my man. I love that. I absolutely love that. 4'9" should be Faithful Day, right? We got to turn it into a national holiday. We got to get your birthday celebrated with more vigor by the Niner faithful.
Hey, man, I tell people every time I see the team logo or see 49ers, I see my birthday.
Yes, yes, sir. Well, I will never forget that now, right? That is now imprinted on my mind. I will always, every time we get to April 9th, I'm going to be like, William Bennett, got to reach out, got to give my man a happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, hell yeah. Well, I'm in answer to your question, man. I'm doing well. We got a brief day of sunshine here in Portland. Like this time of year in Portland is manic depressive type of weather. It goes from like beautiful to hailing to raining to a rainbow with sunshine. It's all over the place. But today was just solid sun. So I got out, got some sun on my face. That was a good time, man. A good recharge.
That's what's up.
Yes,
I've been sitting back here in the here in the day, listening to trying to think of what I was gonna first harp on, and I've been listening to that Niner guy and other people talks and some of the chats, the super chats that's been coming in. I gotta play devil's advocate here.
All right, let's hear it.
I gotta disagree. Pay that man his money. And the reason I say pay him his money is when you play a game and they give you options of, do you want a more team that's suited to the run or to the pass or balance? 9 times out of 10, you go with balance. Deebo is that balanced player. Yes, Devontae Adams is a great receiver, but you're not going to give it to Devontae Adams behind the line and he score a touchdown for you and save the game. That's not going to happen. He's not built that way. See, with Deebo, you have choices of what you can do. You have choices of how you can make that offense look. And that's what's going to contribute to Trey Lance. You can't put Devontae Adams back there and people think he's going to run the ball. No, it's just not going to happen. Pay Deebo the money because next year it's going to cost you more. If you franchise tag him this year, you're going to be paying him like Washington was paying Kirk Cousins.
Oh, man, where you get like a fully guaranteed contract the entire.
Pay him now. Pay him now. Get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Second of all, I understand people are like, oh, it's easier to pay Bosa. To me, yes, Bosa is an outstanding, and if his health continues, will be a Hall of Fame player. But since college, his second year with the Niners, he's had serious injuries. It's only so many ways you can stretch a tendon. I mean, say he tore his ACL in college, came to the Niners, 2019 rookie sensation. 2020 tore his ACL, came back 2021, outstanding 2019 vibes.
Right.
I'm worried about what are we going to see in 2022 because it seems like every other year he's getting a serious injury. I'm not saying trade him or not pay him his money. I would just, if I could possibly franchise tag him this year, I would.
Yeah.
Because I got to see your health.
Right. You're obviously not wishing anything upon Deebo Samuel. You're looking at the historical evidence that has shown itself over a period of time. And you're looking at the trend and saying to yourself, hey,
at the stats.
Yeah, the trend would indicate.
I'm looking at what actually is in front of us.
Yeah,
yes, you can love a player to death, but you can't just blind eye what's staring you right in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
It's a fair critique.
I love him on our team. He makes a difference. But what good is talent that's not on the field?
Yes, the best ability is availability. That saying is there for a reason. By the way, I just got to bring it in because the love is here. Chris Royal, William, OG, Bennett. Yes. I love it. We got birthday wishes. Gerardo coming in. Happy early birthday, bro. Mo No coming in 409. Happy birthday, Faithful. We got Raphael 562 Niners. Happy birthday. Bennett 49er Gang 916. Happy birthday. Yes. And then we had somebody else Troy coming in. Just turned the great 49 last Saturday. Happy early birthday, William. I had to get you that love, man. I had to get that for you because the people were showing it in the chat. So I had to make sure that came through loud and clear.
I really do. I really appreciate it. But with Deebo, it would behoove us to pay him his money now.
It would have behooved us to get that man his damn money before all these other wide receivers got their money.
But see, all that predicates to I'm gonna say it like Harry Potter. How does it go? To he whose name we not say.
Yes.
I'm gonna put it so many of our moves have been really, despite what they're saying, despite what Jed and John and Cal saying, so many of our moves have been predicated to Jimmy being on this team right now.
Okay.
So
yeah. I mean, that's true.
Is if I fear that it's gonna affect our draft. I mean, it's hurting who even wants to come to this team. Because right now, they're like, oh, they're running it back with Jimmy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And as
I think that has to factor into a free agent's decision. I think that they would take that into account.
You want to know who is going to be my quarterback.
Right.
Like, okay. And another thing about Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is a great receiver, but it's not you can't just look at Devontae Adams. You can put him on any team and he's just going to be stellar. No. Somebody has to throw him the ball.
That is true. That is true. He does have Aaron MFing Rodgers throwing him the ball.
Between Aaron Rodgers and David Carr.
Yeah, at least a little bit.
I'm gonna tell you, David Carr will suffer a lot more because the AFC, not only the Raiders, but a lot of the AFC has just up there.
Yeah, they spent big money this offseason. It's ridiculous what the AFC has done.
Oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. And also, like I said, I do blame Deebo for this one thing. And Faithful, y'all make it feel me on this. We would not be having these Jimmy woes. We would not be having these Jimmy woes if Deebo would have just let us lost that damn Chicago game.
We would have made the switch. It would have been Trey Lance time.
We would have never seen no more of Jimmy on the field.
Yeah.
It would have been over. Trey Lance would have been playing, and would we have made the championship? Who knows? Because honestly, to me, I think Trey Lance on a rookie year as good as Jimmy is right now. Yeah. I just didn't see. Picture this. I was on Instagram and I was looking at how many highlights. It had to be at least 5 to 8 highlights.
Yeah.
What Deebo has brought to the team this year. Ooh. Do you know out of all those highlights, I'm gonna even give you the Macho Man. Oh yeah. Do you know out of all those highlights, there were only one highlight that showed Deebo catching the ball down the field? People say people look at Deebo running ability because that's all he had to work with, honestly.
Yeah.
The one highlight of Deebo catching down the field pass, getting distance, and scoring a touchdown was from Trey Lance. Only one. Every highlight they showed with him with Garoppolo was Deebo within the 10-yard span or behind the line.
A lot of those passes were, I mean, it's definitely yak for a reason, right? I mean, that just is the 49ers offense, especially with Jimmy Garoppolo there behind center.
Now, if you believe that a player like Deebo can take us to a championship on and put the team on his back when some of the players were playing very suspect, what do you think it would do to have him with a player like Trey Lance? And like I said, you're going to see a lot of people respect. You're going to see a lot of people who may not get as many catches, but their yards per catch is going to go up the charts.
Right, because you're going to be pushing the ball down the field with Trey.
Exactly. Kittle. And you're going to see the Niners do something that a lot of people are not used to us doing. You're going to see the team a lot more healthy. And you know why? Because they're not going to have to worry about yak. They're going to actually be able to get the ball in stride.
Out in space? That's a crazy concept. Crazy.
You're not even used to it because you haven't seen it because of Jimmy. And don't get me wrong. I like Jimmy. He reminds me of Superman. You know, I love Jimmy. But he's just like that couple that wants to break up, but nobody wants to move out of the house.
Yeah.
And it just becomes more toxic and toxic and toxic.
When you hear Shanahan, he's like, yeah, I don't talk to Jimmy much. Like, oh, it's toxic at this point, right?
People realize how toxic that was when he say, oh, I talk to Trey all the time.
Right.
I don't really talk to Jimmy.
We don't communicate much.
That ship has sailed. They're not even communicating. If they were on such a good deal, you would still talk to the man.
Yeah.
Until he's off that team, you would still communicate with him.
Yep.
But like I said, I don't believe it was Kyle who wanted Jimmy around. I was watching John Lynch interview with Matt Mayoko, and where he was saying it was his idea to keep Jimmy. And I think that was his idea, telling Jed, we're going to push these. Go ahead, Kyle. You can give up all those draft picks to get Trey.
Right.
We're going to push Jimmy trade value up. And Kyle just had to go there. Kyle wanted Trey to win it right off the break. That's why he was going with that two quarterback system.
Right.
But
bringing Trey in.
But they just couldn't get the pieces in a row, and that Trey could take over. And the problem was Trey didn't have the reps.
Yeah, I felt like they used Jimmy as their safety blanket last year, that they were just afraid to put Trey in right away, and maybe for good reason, right? Maybe because they want to protect him, they wanted to bring him along slowly. They did think they had a better chance with Jimmy, but it definitely handicapped the team in some respects, right? I wouldn't redo it. I like the way it played out personally. I understand.
Honestly, Kyle set Trey down because Kyle went to Trey and said, look, I'm just go ahead and sit down. The head office and the players have this they've been eating some mushrooms, and they have this delusion that Jimmy is something more than we have seen. But like I said, just go ahead and sit down. Next year, you're my guy.
Yeah.
You're my guy. The reason what happened, see, mad scientist again, I think at the end of that championship game, it was looking, Kyle looked at it, was like, oh my goodness, we go to the Super Bowl and Deebo and them win the Super Bowl. I'll never get rid of Jimmy. Deebo, sit down. Sit down, Deebo.
Oh man, I can't go there with you, William, but I like the creativity. I do. Hold on, let me bring in the super chat. Jaguile56 came in here with the super chat. Deebo should get paid, but the team should take a measured approach. The key to our success of O-line to control the line of scrimmage. I'm okay with D. O-line is key. I mean, I definitely agree in the importance of the offensive line. I agree that Deebo should get paid. I think the team has to take that measured approach. I think Jaguayo is onto something there that, yes, I agree they should get
Oh,
paid.
I
They
mean,
do have to be measured in how they pay him, but they've got other concerns is how I'm interpreting Jaguayo's statement there, that they need to get the Deebo thing locked down, get Jimmy off the book so they can reallocate that money and build up the offensive line. That's how I'm interpreting that comment.
Yeah. The only thing that I'm hoping, and I'm going to put this out there because I've said it throughout the last year's season, being that Cal is from from the former Redskins.
Right.
The one thing that, and he does value his father's opinion.
He does.
Whether on scene or off scene. And the one thing I remember his father saying when they got RG3 was when they said, oh, because Washington's O-line was terrible that year.
Yeah.
Terrible. The one thing that when the media asked Mike Shanahan, well, how are you going to portray RG3? Talking about the O-line. He said, what are you going to have him do? He said, oh, he's going to do what we paid him to do. He's going to run. Do not do that to Jimmy. I mean, do not do that to Trey.
Right.
Do not do that to Trey. Oh, well, he's a mobile quarterback, so let him run. Oh, we ain't going to worry about the O-line, so let him run.
Oof.
Don't do that to that young man. Don't
Please do not do that to the young man.
You're going to do what Jason Campbell called RG3 when he got drafted and told him, the Redskins are going to ruin your career. They will ruin that boy's career if they do that. I'm trying to tell you. It's a reason why. It's a reason why Washington quarterbacks always get tore up knees or tore up legs. O-line be terrible, and they don't protect their quarterbacks very well.
Man,
so
we got to invest. Got to invest. William, will you stick around? We would now have, if you're willing to do the roundtable, we would now have the three that we need. Chris, that Niner guy, and you would be the roundtable. I just got to hit Swan Song is here. So we got to hit that and then get to the roundtable to wrap this thing up. How do you like that?
I'm here.
Heck yeah. Okay. William, fantastic call. Again, before we send you out, an early happy birthday to you, sir. 4-9 is forever William Bennett and the Niner Faithful Day. All right, we will be back. William, thank you as always. Great call. We'll be back with the roundtable in just a moment. All right, we are bringing Swan Song in. I cheers William, but I didn't take a drink. Always got to take that drink. Always got to take that drink in order for the cheers to actually mean something. I wanted to bring in Big Jim's comment because I enjoyed it. These types of things when people shout them out, I get a kick out of it, man. I just want to say thank you. But Big Jim coming in, Rob, I had the worst day ever. Your stream just made me smile. Hope your day's going great, my guy. Big Jim, thank you for that. That means something to me. I don't know. It just touches me when I can make an impact for someone else because I feel the same way. When someone else is able to impact me in that way, I am grateful to them for influencing me. And it's why I always say, like, go out and kill people with kindness. Kindness is magic. You don't realize it, but it is. The next person you come into contact with in your random day of life, treat them kindly and watch their eyes light up. It's magic, and you just made their day better. They may have been going through, as Big Jim's talking about, one of the worst days of their life, and you have a chance to change that around. That could be someone who waits on you at a restaurant. That could be someone at a store. That could be someone you pass on the sidewalk, just smiling and saying hello. So I just wanted to bring that up because, Big Jim, I appreciated you coming in with that. But I definitely want to bring Swan Song in here to get it going. And we can hit that super chat that just came in. Swan Song, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks, Rob.
Nice. How's your Thursday going?
It's going pretty good. I saw some of the news and I'm like, oh, brother, here we go. It's going to be one of those days.
Gonna be one of those days.
So, I like listening to the show, obviously. There's some comments that I see that I have to say something because I just gets me going. But
you got the passion, man.
Yeah,
Sometimes you got to let it out.
So the thing with Jimmy is like when they're saying that, they signed Jimmy after, 7 starts or whatever. I mean, it's apples and oranges, right? At that time, the Niners were not filling up seats in the stadium, right?
Yes.
signing Jimmy was they had cap to burn, right? They had so much cap,
enormous cap to
yeah,
burn.
how much money are you gonna roll over, right?
Right. It was laughable how much money we had back then.
So at that point, it's actually a business decision to sign Jimmy because one, he had that whatever 6-7 game winning streak.
Right.
The
5-game winning streak.
Yeah, the 5-game winning streak. He's putting people in the stands, right? There's all the hype and like the shine around Jimmy, right? Oh, he played under the GOAT. He was actually challenging Tom Brady. This is the guy.
We're gonna be the next Patriots. We're gonna be the Patriots West.
Exactly. His jawline especially does not hurt, right?
Right. Not when you're putting it up on 50-foot banners on a freaking stadium. It helps to have a strong jawline.
Yeah, so it's totally different. Now the 49ers are like a contending team that has to worry about salary cap, that has to think about these prudently. Because yes, we love Deebo. There's undeniable that that's the type of guy that you want, right? All the passion, doesn't care, doesn't say that much, doesn't do like, that's a great story, right? Like who doesn't want that to happen? But the only reason why some of us are pushing back is we're not pushing back. We're not saying do not pay Deebo, right? Give him whatever, 25 million, 22, 25 million, 60 guaranteed, right? I think, or somewhere in that area, 55, 60. Devontae Adams got 67. I think Tyreek Hill got a little bit more than that. But the reason why he shouldn't get, and maybe even that, it's kind of high. I don't know. But the reason why the 49ers can push back, and then I'm okay with them pushing back, is just because it's like what we've been talking about. He has 1 year of production. Granted, that year was elite. That we haven't seen that production in quite some time since like Terrell Owens, and the way that he did it was exciting just because we've never seen a wide receiver get, running back snaps and actually being successful. Like, I don't know, like 30% of the time he's running.
Yeah, like more than a regular running back special.
Yeah. What is that stat? That stat that it was like, if Deebo carries the ball 8 times, we win the game.
Yeah, I think it was even lower. It might have been 7. And that was it, a win.
Yeah, it was nuts stats. I was like, I'm looking at that stats. There's no way that stat is sustainable. But then he keeps on doing it. It's like, oh my God, what's going on? This is the one thing maybe you guys know, but I haven't heard it yet. Did anyone ever ask Kyle why Deebo barely touched the ball in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game?
I feel like he has been asked that, but I definitely didn't get a quality answer. If it was asked, it was avoided like the plague.
I wonder if he was injured.
That wouldn't shock me. I mean, he played through a lot of injury. You could tell.
And he had that big hit, remember?
Dude, I couldn't believe he got up off the ground and continued playing in Green Bay. Like, are you kidding me? He looked the woman next to me, a Packer fan, was like, she was a big Deebo fan because her son went to South Carolina. And so she actually had seen him play when he was playing for South Carolina. And so was a Deebo fan, obviously was rooting for the Packers, but she was devastated when she saw that. And everyone's, the breath went out of the stadium. I thought for sure he was done. And then boom, pop back up, back in the game. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he were injured in that one and maybe that played a factor.
Yeah, it's just the only thing that doesn't really make sense. I know he's kind of done that before, like where it's like, hey, why aren't you doing the obvious thing here? Like do the obvious thing, don't do the thing that like we don't want you to do. You know what I mean? It's like,
I'm telling you, another Packer fan here, Dirk Pippen says, I couldn't believe Deebo got up. I'm sure it broke everyone's heart, but at the same time, they felt good about it. Like I'm sure the humane part of them was like, oh, thank goodness Deebo's okay. And the Packer fan side of Dirk Pippen was probably like, oh man, here we go again.
Yeah, and the thing is with Deebo is like we were talking about, this is 1 year production. I heard some comments in there talking about Jerry Rice and things like that, and I go, okay, that's great. I get it. Everyone wants their generation of Jerry Rice,
right?
But it can't be just off of 1 year. Like
it can't. Wait, let me ask you this because this came in from Chris, super chat here a few minutes ago, so I want to get it out there. If they don't pay him, do you think he sits out? Do you think Deebo would take this to the rails? Like, is he prepared to go to the limit in order to get what he wants? He's sort of posturing as if he might go to the limits, but
I don't think so.
Yeah,
the reason why I don't think so, and this is not saying that of his character or anything like that, it's a scary proposition if you're a player. This is where all the leverage goes to the team. The team is the Niners are going to be the Niners forever.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel has a shelf life, right?
Very small window.
He's already on the older side at 26 for the first year contract. Some guys are 24 after their first contract.
Right. Because if you come out elite, usually you're coming out early, and 21, 20 in the case of Trey Lance. That so big contract can come a lot earlier.
He's 26. So he's not only giving up his salary for the year, he's giving up 1 year of his prime.
Yeah.
And on top of that, guess what? They can franchise you another year.
Right. And this may be, because of the window, because it starts at 26, this might be the only big contract Deebo gets. Like he will be on the north side of 30 when he gets his next contract.
And what they could do is maybe they do something like make it very incentive laden where you go, hey, Deebo, if you hit these numbers, you will be the top paid wide receiver.
Yes.
But the guaranteed money is not going to be there. We can't do it. Like we can't do it. Like, they don't talk like that, but you get what I'm saying, right? Make it incentive laden and go, hey, you hit these numbers, you will be the top paid wide receiver. But this is the guaranteed money you're going to get. And to answer that question is that they can franchise him for 2 years. I mean, of course, the Niners don't want to do that because that's bad PR.
And it gets crazy expensive in the single years.
Yeah, and all that money is guaranteed, and there's no cap relief from it. There's no backloading it or anything. You hit all of it, right? So, of course, they want to avoid that as well. And then, of course, Deebo wants to avoid, hey, I want to get paid, right? Because you don't get paid, right? If you're holding out, you don't get paid. No, they
are taking money away from your paychecks. You are getting negative deductions.
Yeah, and then you're losing 1 year of your prime. So it's a sucky situation. I think before that happens, they'd probably trade him before they went that franchise route.
Yeah.
I think that's what they would do.
I think you're right. I think if it got that ugly, I agree. I think at that point they would explore the trade market as opposed to having to try and franchise him. I mean, you'd be looking at a scenario where maybe Deebo holds out through camp. He may not want to come in and practice until he has a new deal in place. That would be a reasonable strategy from Deebo because you certainly can get a stress fracture. You can roll an ankle. Like anything can happen that derails this season, and that would hurt his negotiating tactic. But the Niners also do seem to value players who show up to camp, right? Fred Warner, George Kittle showed up, got the big deals. So I that's the biggest piece for me is how ugly does this get? Is this the furthest that it goes where Deebo scrubs his Instagram? I can deal with that. If we start getting into the holdout scenario, now it gets a little uglier.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I mean, it's good talking about it. We have something to talk about. It's painful, guys. It's good to talk about something other than Jimmy. So
oh my goodness, isn't it though?
So it's like, and then I did hear a rumor, I don't know if it's true, is that Kyle and John Lynch had dinner with Deebo. I don't know if that's true. I've heard it on a couple shows now.
Okay.
So I'm not even
I'll look
sure
into
if that's
that
true or not. So
I've not heard that anywhere, but I will look into that.
So yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So that could be like, hey, dude, it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's like, I think that they're not going to get rid of, I mean, I think people,
I don't think so either.
Yeah. I don't think so either. Even Deebo knows that. Of course, you're going to try and negotiate for as much money as you can because, you're not in this league very long. But if it comes down to like 5 million here, whatever, you're making insane amount of money at this point. Right. So it's like, and
the other thing I like to point out, Richard Sherman got it. When you're in the Bay Area, man, make friends with Silicon Valley. Come on. If you can't take advantage of being in one of the wealthiest places in the world, I don't know what to tell you. Take that contract money and invest it into some startups, right? I mean, exactly. there are ample ways to raise up that net value by simply taking that money and turning it into more money.
Yeah, and then like this next money will set Deebo and his, further generations, right?
Yeah, for life.
They're all set. Yeah, they're
for
set.
Sure.
So it's like I get it. They want to get paid. I mean, Deebo wants to get paid. I get it. But I think at the end of the day, the way that even the Niners had said this, like, hey, we budgeted for this, so I'm sure that they have a figure in mind.
Yeah.
And this is just the early starts of negotiation, right? They
Right.
probably came in low. Debo's agent came in high, and then this is where we go from
And
there.
then Deebo scrubbed his Instagram to be like, you should come in a little bit higher.
Yeah.
That's just the way these contract negotiations go. I think this is going to become more and more frequent because the public outcry from this is very real, and it absolutely puts the 49ers franchise feet to the fire in some respects. The fan base is riled up at this point. And Deebo did that with a couple of keystrokes, right?
Yeah.
More and more athletes are going to take advantage of that
and I think
power.
this route is way better than back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, where someone would literally be pissed off talking to a mic, right?
Right.
Like, or say something really like, whoa, then get the fan base can get really mad, because I'm sure I get it. Like some of the fan base, like seeing them scrub, even I felt a little irked by it, like I'm not blaming Deebo, but at the same time, you feel some way about it, right?
Yeah.
You feel some way about it. But it's way better than imagine if you got on a mic and said, no, I believe this is what I'm worth, blah, blah, blah. Like if you said something like that, you'd be like, ooh.
The comments would get a lot of airtime, and it would definitely rile up the fan base in a different way than the Instagram moves did.
Yeah, so I think this is a better way of it's kind of like, what is it? Civil
Civil discourse?
Yeah.
Like there you go. That's a good term for it.
You know what I mean? It's
I love it.
Passive aggressive way of doing it,
Swan Song. So we have 3 in the panel right now, but I feel like in the future we got to get you in the panel for the roundtable, because I feel like you would fit right into that mix. I found the sweet spot to be 3, and I got to close out on 15 minutes of it. But in the future, we got to make it happen and add you into the roundtable, my friend, because they're always great calls with you, sir.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Pleasure chatting with you.
Take it easy.
Hey, you too. All right, bringing in Castro 007. Wish y'all the best of luck, Niners. Coming from a Raiders fan, I'm telling you, there's love in between the Bay Area teams. I know the Raiders are no longer a Bay Area team. They're a Las Vegas team. But I will always give them, a minor warm spot in my heart for being a Bay Area team in that regard. All right, we are going to the roundtable for about 15 minutes. This is going to be fantastic. Hit us up with what you want us to cover in the roundtable. Hit me with @Rob or @Rob Schuh in the comments. What is it that you want to bring to the table with Chris? Boom. That Niner guy. Boom. And of course, the early birthday boy, William Bennett, Mr. 49. All right. So until we get somebody in there talking about what they want to hear from the panel, I feel like there was some agreement and some disagreement. So there was certainly some that said we should pay Debo Samuel. All those in favor of paying Debo Samuel his money and getting that contract done, raise your hands. So that's everybody. But there were varying degrees to which we did that. And so I think everyone's on the same page in that regard. But, it varies a little bit. There was some contention around the comparison between Davante Adams and Debo Samuel. I know that Niner guy probably wants to respond. That Niner guy, do you want to respond? I feel like you're itching to say something about Davante Adams. Come on in. Say something about Davante.
Guys, come on. Seriously? Are we really comparing a guy who was elite 1 year to a guy who's been elite 8 years? Are we doing that right now? Come on.
Yes, we are.
Okay, come on, guys. I understand that Aaron Rodgers saw the ball. I get it. But, one thing people don't talk about Davante Adams is he was legit the only number 1 receiver on that team. They've been goosing together a receiving core with Aaron Rodgers being awesome. And they force feed him the ball, and people still can't cover him.
Yeah. It is one of those where, no matter who's covering him, even if you've got him doubled at the line of scrimmage, if you have a third and whatever, and it's a must get down in a must win situation, you're tossing it up to Davante Adams. Not to say that you couldn't do that with Debo. We just haven't seen it. There isn't that level of trust. There isn't that level of chemistry. And you could argue that maybe that's at the feet of Jimmy Garoppolo, and that if you had Aaron Rodgers on the Niners, that he may have already formed that chemistry with Debo. But I think there's something to that. I got to give the nod to Davante Adams, coming out of Palo Alto High School, a proud Pally alumni just like myself. So I think if I had to say, yeah, he's a little bit more deserving of the big contract. All right. Well, if that caused any of you to feel that you want to respond to it, you can. But I feel like we've hit the Deebo thing for a while. Unless we get something in the chat that says that's what people want to cover. I'm interested to know what each of you guys feels around where we are with pick 61. Where are the Niners going first? What's the biggest priority? Because right now they just filled up a wide receiver spot, right? But that was kind of a depth signing. And they brought in for the visit the gentleman from the Colts, the edge rusher, who I think would be a great addition and may insulate the 49ers along the defensive line to where they don't need that position in the draft, could still take it. But as of right now, where do you see the biggest need and where do you think the 49ers go with that pick 61? Chris, what does your gut tell you?
My gut tells me that they're probably going to look for edge. I think that the bigger need is probably safety. But I have this sneaky suspicion that they're hoping that what's his face pans out to be a good, better player. What's his Talanoa Hufanga?
Right.
So I think that they're hoping that he pans out to be that starter to take over that spot.
Nice. And so, but you do think that the 49ers maybe go edge with that first pick. That's what I've been predicting as well. It's hard for me in a deep draft of edge rushers. It's hard for me to imagine the 49ers not like half checking a box and half going best player available. You know, that compromise. Kyle Shanahan said as much at the owners meeting. That Niner guy, what's your gut tell you about what the biggest hole is and how the 49ers address a hole with that? Address a hole. I heard myself say it and then had to acknowledge it. Yes. How do you think they address that hole in the draft?
Well, I mean, it depends, right? It's because you're picking at 61. It depends on the board.
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger question because my idea for the Niners is to trade the pick, go down.
Trade back?
Yeah, because I think the value in this draft is in the third round, the fourth round. You know that I've been looking to a lot of these guys, and
yeah,
the problem I have is that this draft class isn't as good as everyone's been talked about. So I feel like getting more picks in the third round, even a couple more picks, another pick in the fourth round. I think you can get guys who are solid starters maybe in a year or two, but I'm a little more skeptical. I think the biggest need by far is safety. Now it depends on how they feel with Greg Odom. They seem to like him. He did start quite a bit for the Colts when the Colts defense was playing really good. So maybe he is a starter. He has had the chance. We don't know that yet.
I mean, Odom seems to believe that he has the capability to start, as he should.
Exactly. So it depends. I mean, I still think the right side of the offensive line is a really, really big need because I think in a year from now, I don't think Mike McGlinchey's on this team. And Brunskill, who knows? He could price himself out next year and not be one of those $2.5 million starting right guards. So I think that's a real problem.
Both you and Chris have said that the biggest need, not the one necessarily that they address, is safety. Do you have like a top two as far as your favorite safeties in this draft?
Yeah, I think at 61, it would be either Kirby Joseph or Nick Cross.
Okay. We also had the Watchman in here talking about Nick Cross.
Yep.
An elite Buda Baker vibe is what the Watchman is getting from Nick Cross.
Yeah, I could see the Niners valuing Cross higher than Kirby Joseph because Cross is a much better tackler. He's a much better.
They absolutely value tackling ability.
Now Kirby Joseph is definitely more of a ball hawk. He's really good pass coverage. And Nick Cross is really fast, and I think he can figure it out. But I don't think it's going to be you're going to plug him in and he's going to start day one. I think he's going to need a little bit of time.
Right. That makes sense. People agree on the Cross evaluation. Brisker getting thrown in there, but Brisker may be gone at that point, right?
He's going to be taking like Jacksonville around like 30. The idea of something like that.
All right. William, what do you see as the biggest need? Joey Nichols coming in and saying best player available among these positions, either an edge, wide receiver, safety, or interior line. I'm fine if they want to do a combination of best player available, and it needs to be from, these 4 holes that we currently have on our team. We got to fill one of those, but let's take best player available with them. But William, what does your gut say as far as biggest need for the Niners and direction that they go with that first pick?
I'm gonna go with Nichols. I would say whatever is the best player available for one of our needs. But if I was to address it, I would probably go with what that Niner guy said second, as far as the O-line. I really feel that right side needs to be addressed, and that's not something I think we can. Oh well, hopefully somebody will work out, or we. I think that it really. The injury McGlinchey had, I'm really not having that he's gonna impact our season much. Hey, not wishing the man no, but that's a serious injury.
Very serious.
That's a lagging injury. And right now, I just with Compton, I just don't know. So I would definitely want to address that if I could.
Yeah, we got a couple of people agreeing on the offensive line as well. Hello, ladies, coming in with Alec Lindstrom, potentially. Manuel Rodriguez pointing out center, O-line all day. I have my heart set on Cole Strange. That would be the fit for me. Is Alec is the one that's undersized, though, right? Isn't Alec Lindstrom he's a brother to another NFL player, right? Is that the one that I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
And he is severely undersized. Very athletic, though. Very, very good in space.
Yeah, his brother plays for the Falcons. He's actually really figured it out. I think Chris Lindstrom's his name.
Right, Chris Lindstrom.
But I got to be honest, like Alec Lindstrom, like of the centers who will probably be available, he's probably 4 or 5 at 61 and maybe even 2 or 3 at 90 in the 90s because, Donovan West is going to be there. Cole Strange probably will be there. Maybe not, though. Guard is a need for a lot of teams, so yeah, it's possible. And also Luke Foster from Kentucky. I actually started watching his tape a lot. I'm really high on him. I think he's really good.
Luke Foster?
Yeah.
That's one to add to the list. Got to do more research. There's just so many damn players and so much film to watch and so little time. This one from 49er Gang 916 inspires my next topic here, saying I have a crush on running back Pierre Strong in the 3rd or the 4th. He's a Mostert home run hitter. So first of all, if you have thoughts on Pierre Strong, feel free to kick him in. But who is your biggest draft crush at this moment? Doesn't have to be at the early end of the at the beginning of the draft. It could be somebody that the Niners might address in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Who is that name that you've keyed in on, that college player that you really want to see in the red and gold? William, who do you have a crush on coming out in the draft this year?
If I'm gonna be honest,
yeah, and honesty is key.
And I know there's no possible way we're getting him. But after watching Jesse's Miller show and listening to the Trey Lance coach over there in North Dakota, I would have loved to have seen the matchup with Trey Lance and Chris Watkins. I just would have liked to have seen it. I just would have liked to have seen it. Not, I know a lot of people like, it's commercial, but I just would have liked that chemistry sometimes. I just would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah, I agree. And I was so impressed by him at the combine, the way he carried himself, the way he answered questions, the thoughtful answers that he gave. You can go, anyone who's watching right now, you can go back and find his combine interview on my channel. I was right there in front of him, taking the video. Believe that I had a question in there somewhere. I don't know. Maybe not. There were a lot of different interviews that I taped, but just so impressive, his presence there. So I agree. And now mocks are throwing him out at the freaking end of the 1st round. And so he probably won't be there for the Niners, but it doesn't matter. You can have that crush anyway.
You definitely know he can catch Trey's balls.
You know he can. You know he's proven it, right? You have the evidence. And Joey Nichols just pointing out the earlier comment, Luke Fortner is a clean center prospect that doesn't get enough love. Luke Fortner was thrown out there. All right, let us see. What that Niner guy, what is your draft crush? You want me to go over to Chris real quick?
Go to Chris first.
Okay, Chris, what is your draft crush? 49er Gang 916 is agreeing Christian Watson. Joey Nichols is agreeing Watson, really smart kid. People like the crush. They agree with you, even though we've got no chance at getting him. Everybody's in love with Christian Watson. It's like the girl that you have no chance of dating, but you want her so badly that you just keep fantasizing about that girl, but it ain't happening. It ain't happening. But we can dream. We can dream. Chris, who's your draft crush?
You know, if I could choose anybody, being an Oregon person, I love Kayvon Thibodeau. He ain't going to be anywhere near. I mean, he's gone like probably within the first 5 picks. But, you know, that would be the guy that I'd love. But following that edge, I like Majay Sanders. I think he would fit the defense really well. He's a little light. Like, his weight's a little down, but
yes, yeah, it was way down at the combine, right? Like, yeah. I mean, 220-ish. Now, apparently that was because he had some type of a flu type of illness where he was unable to keep food down, and you know how that can impact. You could drop a lot of water weight real quickly. So I'm not holding that against him completely, but I am concerned. You wonder if he'll drop a little bit in the draft because of that fluctuation in weight. Maybe he's someone that you can get a little bit later.
Yeah, for sure. And watching some of his film there in Cincinnati, I mean, he plays really well with leverage. So, getting that weight under control, I think he'd be a really good pick.
Yeah, that strikes me as one that I would be comfortable with as well. Elvis coming in the building saying, I'm with William Bennett Watson. The proof is in the pudding. Tuesday and Waddle hurts. The last part trails off. And maybe there was another message. No, he just comes back in to say Watson emphatically, very emphatically. That's one where originally I thought there was a chance that the 49ers could trade up, like Lee Ving is suggesting here. Best realistic trade-up prospect, Watson, Brisker, asking that question. We can tackle that one next. But I used to think that Watson was a potential trade-up target, but now that you're seeing him in the first round and you didn't get any second for Jimmy, it becomes much more difficult to actually make that happen, right? You're probably looking at a situation where it would take the 49ers moving heaven and earth to get Christian Watson in the building. We're going to see if that Niner guy can drop in that. No, it doesn't look hopeful. Thumbs down. Niner guy, do you have? What is your draft crush?
I got like 8, but I'll level it down to 2.
Who is the top?
Sam Williams.
Ooh, Sam Williams.
Defensive end at Ole Miss. He's falling in the draft prospect, not because of on the field stuff, because of off the field stuff. But he is, if it wasn't for that, he would be going in the top 30, hands down. He's a lot better than everybody, a lot of guys on the board. He's better than Double Katie. He's better than most of these guys. He also, it's a little weird because he played outside linebacker in a 4-3 his first year, and he also had some insane picks, which was like really interesting to see. But he's just a really good athlete, a really good player. He recently had a kid. Hopefully that can change it around. But I really want the Niners to take him because I feel like Dallas is going to, and they're going to look really smart in a couple of years.
Yeah,
he doesn't care about that stuff. But that's one. The other one is Marquise Bell from Florida A&M.
Ooh.
He's a safety. He played free. If you watch his tape, you just think he's a linebacker, but he's playing 12 yards off the ball. And at the Shrine Bowl, they actually put him at corner. And he was guys and man. I think he's gonna be really good.
That's incredible versatility.
Yeah, I think he'd be really good. He's 6'3", he's like 6'2.5", almost 6'3", really long and lanky. If worst case scenario, maybe he's not a great cover guy. I think he's a guy you can step in and play linebacker in a year. Put a couple pounds on and take over for if we lose Greenlaw or Alshire.
And the Niners cherish that versatility. All right.
Yep.
I hate to cut it short like this, but I do have a hard out that I have to go. We will make the roundtable happen again because it's just my favorite thing to end these freaking Sneakerhead calls with. I want to thank all of you for being on today, especially my roundtable guests. And one last time, we are wishing William Bennett an early happy birthday for Saturday, 4/9. Thank you, gentlemen, all for being all on today. A pleasure chatting with you.
See you,
Take
boys.
care, gentlemen. I am taking you out. Here we go. Remove from the stream. William, cheers, my brother. I'll see you again next week when you're a year older. All right. I am bringing in, we got one super chat that I have to bring on here. Syard Sneakerhead here on the channel, about to take off for New York. Looks like we got a Deebo replacement. A little tongue-in-cheek there, Syard with the jokes. I love it. Cheers to that. Yes, we brought in a camp body at wide receiver, and the Deebo news hits the same day. It's a bad coincidence. Bad coincidence indeed. All right, I got to get rolling. This was a fantastic show. As always, you know the drill. Until next time, I will be back tomorrow on the channel with Jack Hammer. But until then, cheers, faithful.